Welcome back. In today's video, we're going to be covering the cost of living in Raleigh, North Carolina. Today's date is February 6th of 2025. This is mostly intended to be timely information for those looking to move in the spring or summer time frame. For those that don't know me, I'm Domingo from Realty, and I do videos on home buying guides and neighborhood tours. Now, I'm going to break cost of living up into several different categories and include timestamps below, so you can just skip through if you want to, or watch the entire thing, which I'd also greatly appreciate. We're going to cover food, transportation, taxes, homes, entertainment, and finally, health and wellness. I'm going to share both personal stories, but more importantly, correlated data on actual market prices. Alright, so starting with groceries. First two things that I think are staple are eggs and milk. Now I'm going to use Publix prices at the P Street location, which is located in downtown Raleigh. But obviously, if you're going to Trader Joe's, Whole Food, Walmart, Target, prices can vary. Starting off with large grade A eggs. For an 18 count, we're looking at $7.99 before taxes. This is a Publix brand, so it goes up depending on the quality you're getting. For a full gallon of milk, reduced fat 2%, we're looking at $3.99. Heading over to staple carbs, which is going to be pasta and rice. For a 16-ounce spaghetti, we're looking at just slightly over $1. And then for a 5-pound large bag of rice, we're looking at $11. If you were to go with a smaller size, 32-ounce jasmine rice, for Publix brand is $3.89. Moving over to proteins, we're going to hit ground beef first. For a Greenwise ground chuck percent, beef 80%, lean 20% fat, you're looking at about $9 per pound. Moving on to steaks, if you're looking for the leaner cuts like top sirloin, that goes for about $10 a pound, whereas something like a T-bone steak goes for about $16 a pound. And then finishing it off with a staple protein, skinless, boneless chicken, we're looking at $6 a pound. Now the last section of food is going to be restaurants. So I'm going to break this up into three categories. One's going to be $20 and less. The second one will be $20 to $100. And then the third category being $100 plus restaurants. And this is the average cost per person. For $20 per person and under, this is where I think the majority of the restaurants land. And you have anywhere from my favorites, which are going to be the food halls. Maybe that's my favorite just because it's easy to bring a full group to. Or even some more popular local spots like Oakwood Pizza Box. And then of course, you could lump in all of the fast food chains under this. For the $20 to $100 per person slot, we have a number of options, not as many, of course, as the 20 and under, but Angus Barn, Second Empire, and Smokestacks are a couple examples of all of these. I've only actually been to Smokestacks out of this, but I've passed by Angus Barn a lot. Seems to be a super popular restaurant, so it might be worth checking out for like a date night or something, or a special event. Then I think this is where the food scene might change compared to a place like DC, New York City, LA, is $100 plus per person bracket. This is when you start getting to the Michelin star restaurants and whatnot. And so naturally you find people are a little bit skeptical because they're paying Michelin star prices for restaurants that don't have Michelin stars. But the two that I could think of is East End Bistro and the Capitol Grill. Both of them maintain pretty consistent reviews. I haven't been to either of these. I almost feel like I've been inside Capitol Grill after a real estate event actually. I don't really recall much about it. So, in conclusion for the food section, if you're going to be procuring all your own food, groceries and whatnot, a wide range of options from significantly more affordable to buying in bulk and buying healthy options. And you could probably get away with $100 to $200 per person per week. Obviously, if you have kids, then perhaps a little bit more. And then for restaurants, the $20 and under tends to be pretty decent, and the $100 and up tends to be very consistent. And I think that the majority of the food identity crisis, so to speak, is occurring in that middle range. All right, moving on to transportation. This is a very relevant topic to me personally because I recently visited my family in Florida and the trip had many problems, especially in the field of transportation, aka vehicle breaking down. So while I have never actually really used public transportation in Raleigh, this did catch my attention. So starting off with the building blocks, unleaded fuel runs for about $2.86 to $3 a gallon, depending on where you're at. As for public transportation, Go Raleigh is the predominant bus service, and this can go anywhere from a single fare ride starting at $1.25, going to a daily pass at $2.50, a 7-day pass of $12, and a 31-day pass of $40. And there's going to be several discountable fares as well. We also have Greyhound bus services. This is oftentimes handling much longer bus fares. For example, if you were to take a bus ride from Raleigh to Charlotte, then they have options starting at $32.48. If you go to DC, then it's $43.98. If I were to go down to Florida, so had I chosen this route instead of just driving and breaking down, then $103. Then New York City, starting at $73.98. So significantly cheaper than flying, but obviously this is probably going to just add to your trip duration. Amtrak is really the last big public transportation thing that I want to hit. Amtrak is a rail system that spans across the East Coast, and so I pulled a couple of itineraries if I were to take Amtrak to and return from certain locations. In this case, if I were to go from Raleigh to New York City, then I have departure options in coach starting at $131. And this would include Wi-Fi, restrooms. I don't know if it includes food services or not. If I were to go from Raleigh to Charlotte, because I believe Amtrak has discounts if you're traveling within North Carolina, you could get from Raleigh to Charlotte for just $30, which is pretty good. And then if I were to take this down to Tampa, I could have done coach for $60 a person. So overall, I feel like the transportation is generally on par with sort of an average cost of living. Really the nice thing, and this is kind of off the note of cost of living, is that because you are centrally located along the East Coast, these transportation options, or even just driving by car, gives you pretty convenient access to the entire East Coast, whether it be New York City or Tampa, or even locally if you were to take a day trip to the beach or to the mountains. And I guess I didn't mention Raleigh has its own EV charger infrastructure, so you're covered on that. Sort of in hindsight, I actually feel like I would have rather just taken Amtrak down to Florida, but oh well, that's okay. I like having my own car in the other end. Taxes are a not so fun subject, but critically important, especially here in Raleigh. In Raleigh, when it comes to real estate taxes, you have both city and county taxes, which come to an approximate combined rate of $0.8685 per $100 of assessed property value. If you're at a property that costs $300,000 or assessed value of $300,000, which is different than appraised value when you go through a transaction for purchasing a home, by the way, then your annual property tax would approximately be $2,605. All right, so the more simple ones, sales tax 7.25%, and that's comprising of a state tax of 4.75%, a county tax of 2%, and a special district tax of 0.5%. And then lastly, there is also a personal property tax. So when you're registering your vehicle, you also pay that tax on your vehicle, depending on the size, year, make, model. There's a lot of different factors to it. Don't believe I've ever spent more than a couple $100, and I have a 2022 Toyota Tacoma. For those that live out of state, there is an income tax within North Carolina as well. Compared to national taxes or other states, it's a flat income tax, and everybody's going to be paying 4.25%, which is actually a minor decrease from the year prior, which was at 4.5%. There is a corporate income tax as of right now at 2.25%, but in theory, there are plans that are being talked about by 2030, this being eliminated. And then also going back to the individual income tax, there's more discussion about further decreasing this in the future. So with that, if you haven't paid your taxes already, go and do that. Next up are homes. Now, for anyone who's seen my last market update, this is more or less the same. The only difference is that market update was focused on December and the entire 2024 market, whereas we have updated stats for January. So median sales price in Wake County is $470,000, which is a decrease from December, which conversely then increases the affordability index, which is nice. Now, the average sales price is a little bit higher than this. It'll be somewhere in the $500K range. The ton of luxury homes that are popping up are pulling up the average, whereas median sales price, half of the inventory is at or below $470K. I will say, again, for those that are looking to buy in spring and summer, the number of new listings and inventory on the market doubled since December. So we're going to see where buyer psychology goes, but it's possible indications of the market picking up. And the last thing, utilities. I was actually looking up a bunch of averages and whatnot, but at the end of the day, I was like, why don't I honestly just look up what I'm paying for utilities and just share that? Starting off with energy, I use Duke Energy. Factoring out my Airbnb and my neighbor who uses my EV charger, I'm roughly spending about $125, $150 on energy a month. For Raleigh water and trash, I'm spending about $66.12 a month. Internet, I use Google Fiber, so $70. Pest control, I have a multi-property plan, so mine's a little bit cheaper per property, but I'm getting mine for just under $67. And then my homeowner's insurance is roughly $140 per month. For those who want to do landscaping, which really the cheapest option you're going to be looking at is $312 a month. So overall, all the general costs of the home are fairly reasonable, fairly diverse. Really just depends on the type of home you own and your location. All All right, moving on to the second to last category, entertainment. Ironically, I actually don't do many things in this category, which might mean I'm just a super boring person. But anyways, if you go to the movies, you could look to spend about $11 per movie ticket, not including drinks or snacks or whatever. If you were to go to the Raleigh Convention Center, general admissions for a cheaper convention could be anywhere from $35 to $45. There may be ones that are free, or even like business conventions that are much more expensive. But we have like a version of our Comic-Con that we run here, and that's what it would generally cost you. Now there's several music events, several amphitheaters, arenas, symphonies. For that, you're looking at, on the cheaper side, $40 to $50 per performance, or $100 plus if it's a big name concert. Now there is also free stuff, because I don't want to just cover things you're having to pay for, even though it is cost of living. You have museums, you have parks, and you have pop-up markets. You also have various grassroots events that occur that you could just attend. Now I guess you could technically say the museums and the parks are not free because you're paying with it using your taxes, but that's kind of a technicality. You're already paying your taxes. You could use this as much as you want without having to pay more. And the last one I wanted to throw in here, despite not doing this, I figured it might be fun for those who prefer golf. If you're looking at Top Golf, then you could spend anywhere from $30 to $60 per person per day. And I think if you go on a Tuesday or maybe it's a Wednesday, they have up to like half off deals. And then if you were to actually go golfing, prices range anywhere from $50 to $100, even a little bit more than that, depending on if you're walking or riding. So I think a lot of the times I don't use this kind of stuff, but more or less painting a picture of, at least I feel, it's all fairly reasonably priced. And lastly, we're going to talk about health and wellness, which kind of is a crossover blend of entertainment. So gym memberships more or less span what you would expect. You could go all the way from $15 per month at a place like Planet Fitness, all the way up to a premium membership of $180 per month at an area like Lifetime Fitness. And then there's YMCA as well. They kept their prices kind of vague, but if I remember correctly, it's like $75 a person, which typically gives you access to a basketball court, obviously fitness area, and oftentimes a pool. For those who like an alternative option to that is Triangle Rock Club. I'm actually going there today after I edit this video a little bit. The day pass for adults is roughly $20, and for kids it's about $13. But they also offer a party option, which I think the per person cost is a little bit over this, but they also provide dedicated room and services and things like that. For me, I'm spending $95 a month for my membership, which includes climbing at any of the TRC locations. It includes all classes. It includes a gym area, not just for rock climbing. They have a run club. They have social meetups. This newest gym that I go to that's right down the road has a cold plunge, a sauna. They have locker room showers. It's really a one-stop shop, and that's for $95, which is a lot, right, compared to the $15 Planet Fitness. But I also come from a background where all of my social circle does CrossFit and Jiu-Jitsu. So I pulled those costs, and depending on where you're at, you could be spending $190 per month for a CrossFit membership. And for Jiu-Jitsu, we have a Gracie gym here. I think there's Iron Grip Jiu-Jitsu, which I'm not as familiar with. It looks like Gracie memberships go for about $195 a month, with a combined option for Muay Thai for $245 a month, which, circling back to TRC and rock climbing, really makes that seem a lot more affordable. But anyways, pick what you want. Last thing, which is up and coming, obviously, is pickleball, which next to TRC, they're also creating a bunch of pickleball courts, but throughout the Raleigh parks, you'll find various tennis courts and pickleball courts, and a single session can cost as little as $2. Depending on the location, you can do a 4-month pass for up to $10, with nets and pickleballs being provided. Now, what I am curious about is if you just show up to one of the parks and start playing, would anybody stop you? So don't know. All right, so there we have it. That is the cost of living as of February of 2025. This is a bit of a boring topic, right? Because it's just me rattling off activities and numbers. But I do hope this helps inform your decision on whether or not Raleigh or the Greater Triangle area is the right place for you to move to. The market really picks up in spring and summer, and most people try to move in the summer. So if you're in that boat and you're considering moving at all, reach out. My contact information is in the description below or on my channel page. You really should be creating your game plan now. You don't have to start searching now. You don't have to start buying now. You don't have to do anything now, but you really should start getting a plan together, because home buying processes can be stressful, but they don't need to be. They could be very deliberate plans in which decision points are just executed left or right, so to speak. So with that, for the rest of this month, I'm going to do one more talking head style video, and then of course I'm going to do one more neighborhood tour. So if you want to see any of that, be sure to subscribe, and I will see you next week. Thanks.